Hey there, coach. It's me, Dax, back with another one of my 30 dates with Dax. And I think we're on date number 9 already. Time flies when we're having such fun, right? So, across these 30 dates, obviously, I'm digging in. I'm taking questions from the tribe around their biggest struggles, challenges, or kind of anything that they need some help with in terms of their coaching business, their coaching careers. In other words, their skill sets, or maybe even their own personal problems and challenges that they may have to be facing. Anything is fair game, and I promise you, I will answer absolutely every question to the best of my ability. No holding back or kind of only giving you part of an answer and saying, hey, kind of, I'll tell you the rest of it when you sign up for my super duper magic amazing course that deals specifically with that topic. I'll give you my best answers, right? So today, date number 9 is courtesy of Paul Robinson. Paul says, can you advise on a skillful way of working through the struggle that comes with achieving a goal? I think any goal, regardless of how much you love doing it, still requires hard work and times of struggle. And as someone who has achieved a great deal and has put in a great deal of work to get where you are now, could you answer that? How did you deal with the struggle aspect? What would you have done differently with the knowledge and understanding you have as a coach now, if you'd had that at the start of your journey as a PT and coach? Good question, right? And my answer, as usual, is ever so slightly convoluted. It's going to kind of go around a few houses, so to speak, right? But please bear with me, because I think this is a really important question, and there are several layers to this. So the very first one that really jumps out to me in that question, Paul, and anyone else who might be paying attention to this, is that any goal, regardless of how much you love doing it, still requires hard work. Well, the first and foremost aspect of this is that the truth of it is, no, that's not necessarily the case, right? That's a belief, and that belief will actually shape our approach to what we do. Does every goal that we want to achieve require hard work? No, it doesn't. When you really, really think about it, it doesn't. We may choose to work hard. We may think we have to work hard. We certainly have to work, right? We can't just sit here and kind of manifest, okay, there's $1 million in my bank account. There's 20 new clients. There's my retreat kind of created, right? We can't not take action and hope that the things that we want in our lives are going to come. But we have a choice over whether that's going to be hard work. And we have a choice over whether that's going to be a struggle. And sometimes the struggle is skillful and it serves us, and sometimes the struggle is unskillful and doesn't serve us. Okay, so that's the first thing to take into account. When we're talking about skillful, again, one of my favorite Buddhist terms, to be honest, skillful, not about morally right or wrong, not about you doing good or bad, or you should have done more and it's not about coulda, shoulda, wouldas, morals, or any of those kind of things. Skillful simply means given what my intent was, given what I was trying to accomplish, what I was trying to achieve, did my actions lead to that? That is what we're talking about, skillful. So sometimes, like if you're trying to build muscle, right, biceps, right? If you're trying to build muscles, and particularly if you're trying to build muscles quickly, then an element of real struggle, like challenging the muscles really, really hard, maybe against a heavy weight or maybe against a high volume, is definitely a way to go, right? And particularly if you want the muscle to build into your body quickly, we condense the time frame. Hence, a small amount of struggle, or maybe a lot of struggle if you're trying to do something very intensive. Now, if you say, look, do you know what? I've got my entire lifetime to get really fit and really healthy, and I'd like to be more muscular and stuff, but I don't really mind if it happens this year, next year, the year after, 5 years from now, because I'm just going to be doing this forever. Then a little and often, without very much struggle at all, still work, because you're still going to go for those walks or do those push-ups or do whatever it is. But you're going to have your result over time because you've chosen to do it struggle-free, right? Or the other way you could look at it is it's struggle-free because you've chosen to do it over time. So now this really brings in what is ultimately the recipe for creating struggle, right? The recipe for creating struggle is usually a time or load based recipe. So if we used kind of training in the gym as an example, right? It's either down to do with the amount of burden that we take on, or the time frame we give ourselves to do something. And very often the two, right? We take on huge burdens and ask ourselves to do stuff in a really small amount of time. What if we took the same kind of idea, but we said, this is what I want to accomplish, but actually I don't mind it taking a bit longer. Suddenly the struggle is less, right? Right? Let's say it takes you 100 units, right? 100 steps, and you complete it. And you say, okay, I'm going to do these 100 steps in a day. Well, that's pretty intensive, right? We kind of, if that comes to building your business, I'm going to make 100 phone calls, I'm going to do 100 blog posts, I'm going to, whatever it happens to be, it's a lot of work. Strugglesome in many respects. Now, if you say, okay, over the course of the next 90 days, I'm going to make 90, or I'm going to make 100 phone calls, or write 100 blog posts. Okay, still a lot of work. The work is still there, but the struggle aspect of it is a bit less. Now, if you said you were going to do the same over, kind of the next year, the work is still there, exactly the same amount of units of effort, but spread out over a longer and longer period. I think you get the message, right? So very often, like more often than not, it's to do with the amount that we're trying to carry and how quickly we want to get that load into that place, right? How quickly we want the effort to manifest the goal. If you're happy to take longer, or if you're happy to have a smaller kind of success, then it doesn't feel strugglesome at all. It's usually because, and this is one of the downside of goals. For years I've been teaching about goals. I've been telling people to think big. But recently, I've started to ask people to do something subtly different. It's exactly the same. Still think big. Still dream your big dreams. One day I want to be filling out stadiums like Tony Robbins. I want people around the world to come. I want 10 books, and I want to sell millions of copies of each. And I want to make $1 billion or $1 billion. I want to kind of do all of these different things, right? Absolutely fine. Like, still keep the big dream, but dream big, but act small. And what that means is, okay, so what's a thing that I can do today? Because once you've done the a thing and you've experienced yourself being a success at it, you may actually say, oh, do you know what? Today I'm still feeling good. Maybe I'll do another a thing, right? And you build up your a things. I'll do a thing, I'll do a thing, I'll do a thing, I'll do a thing. It's up to you how many of them you squeeze into a day. But now it doesn't feel as strugglesome, because now you're doing it from the perspective of, okay, I did the thing that I set out to do, and now here's some bonus. Here's some stuff that puts me a little bit ahead of the curve. Can you see the difference? But struggle is pretty much always relative to time. When you really boil it down, struggle is relative to time. It's relative to load. So look at that first. And to be honest, like, to answer your question, how did I deal with that struggle aspect? Well, first off, I still have struggles. And, I want to be very clear about that. I don't live the perfect life and I've got all my shit together and nothing ever goes wrong for me. I still have my struggles. I still have my challenges. When the struggle becomes really uncomfortable, or kind of even to the point where it feels unbearable, nearly always I can sit back and say, okay, I'm trying to take on too much, or I'm trying to do too much too quickly. It's a time-based thing, right? Most of the struggles. Now, the other category of struggle, as you all know, Paul, because you're actually in the Mind Map Mastery program, and as most coaches are aware of this, the other aspect of struggle is a lack of clarity. Because when we're unclear, everything feels bigger than it actually is, right? Like, kind of learning the neuroscience of coaching to someone who doesn't know anything about neuroscience. Like, shit, you've got to learn all that, and all these brain zones, and all these chemicals, and all this, right? But when you break it down into step-by-step pieces, you go, oh, right, well, that's obvious and that's easy. Now let me take the next lesson. But at the outset, thinking of learning an entire year's worth of neuroscience of transformational coaching is like, oh, that's a lot to take in, right? It's kind of the same in terms of the time frames, but also on top of that, the clarity that you have around any topic. If I try and ram all of my knowledge of neuroscience and transformational coaching into anyone listening to this, be completely overwhelming and unclear. But if I take a very small piece of it and I get really clear about it, and I create clear definitions, suddenly the strugglesome aspect of that disappears. And that's true for me also, right? So I'm either trying to do too much, I'm trying to do things too quickly, or I'm very, very unclear about something. I haven't gotten the level of clarity that I really need about something. Because if I had the level of clarity I needed, it wouldn't feel like a struggle. So the point being here, Paul and everyone else, is this. If you are sensing things as being a struggle, you are lacking clarity, you're lifting up too big a burden, or you're trying to get the things done in too short a space of time. It really is that. There's like you can every permutation of you being in struggle is going to come from one of those things, right? Really, when you put it down, a lack of clarity, trying to do too much in too short an amount of time, or lifting a burden that's too big for you. So the answer then becomes fairly simple, fairly obvious. Gain clarity, slow some of the things down, kind of break things down into smaller chunks. Give yourself more time to do them. Smaller chunks, the struggle disappears. That's the truth for pretty much all of our struggles. So I don't think that no matter how much you love doing something, kind of a goal still requires hard work. I think I will absolutely agree that a goal requires work. That's what it requires. The hard work part, doing things quickly or doing a lot of something, but that's a choice. And it may not feel that way, but it is a choice. And very often we're choosing the wrong thing for us at that moment in time because we're unclear. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that answers your question point. It may not be the one you were looking for. Maybe you were looking for a secret sauce kind of thing. But ultimately that is the secret sauce, or the not so secret sauce. Break things down, chop them into smaller pieces, give yourself longer to do them, and gain as much clarity as you possibly can. If you've chopped your task down into small pieces and you've given yourself more time and you still feel like it's a struggle, then you're simply not clear. Go get clear. That's what coaches are for. I hope that's been useful. If you've got any questions, comments, feedback, anything, even if you're in disagreement with that, and if you want to call bullshit on Dax Moy and say that's really not how it works, I'm up for that. I'm not trying to prove any points here. I'm doing what I can to serve you. I'm answering questions. I'm not asking you or demanding that you agree with me about any of this stuff. So let me know what you think. I'd love to get your feedback. Till next time, take care.